Praise the Lord, everyone. Professor Roop here. Welcome back to Apostolic Church History, where a new podcast episode comes out every Friday at 7 p.m. American Standard Time. Thank you for tuning in this week. If you missed the past episodes, they're all recorded and posted on my YouTube site, Apostolic Church History. So, welcome back. And welcome back for me. So, Gretchen, my wife, and I just recently returned from our missions trip to Guatemala. We went to Casa Angelina, which is an orphanage in Zaragoza, Guatemala, which is in the middle of the country, way up in the mountains. So this was a missions trip, not a missionary trip. So you might be saying, well, what's the difference? Well, there's a difference. A missions trip is a short trip, a week, 2 weeks, a month. But it's a short duration trip to do a certain project. So we went there to do work projects. Spent a week doing work projects. That's a missions trip. A missionary is someone who goes into the country long term and concentrates on church building projects. Preaching, evangelistic work, building up a church. Whereas a mission trip is somebody, usually missionaries that don't deal with preaching or church building, like we didn't do that this time. Humanitarian missionaries are before missions. They go short-term, long-term, but they do humanitarian work. That's kind of what we did, humanitarian work. I didn't preach in any church there. I did work projects, which is just as important. Ministers can build up a orphanage or missionary church, but they need workers and helpers to build structures at a cost-effective rate. They want to start a church, but somebody has to build that church, right? So that's where humanitarian missionaries come into play. And every church denomination has them. And that's what we did. So we flew into Guatemala on a Sunday. We were picked up at the airport and taken to a hotel in Antigua, Guatemala. Antigua is in the center of the city. It's a very old historical city. It's right next to an active volcano. So I was keeping my fingers crossed there. It's right next to an active volcano. But there's 23 active volcanoes in Guatemala, which is a small country. So if they all blew up at once, Guatemala would be wiped out. So we were in the middle of Antigua, stayed at Hotel Antigua. Typical Spanish-style hotel. It was walled, completely walled, 4 ways, and one way in and out. Inside you had several courtyards, and then along the courtyards you have rooms. And so you walked in our hotel, and there was an inner courtyard, and that courtyard further, and that's where our room was on the other side. Nice hotel. It's different than American standards. Has no... didn't have any air conditioning or heating, but the climate there in the mountains is very temperate, and you really don't need air conditioning heating. The only problem with that is the climate there is very damp all the time. It rains all the time. It's tropical forest, so it rains all the time. It's very damp, so it's always damp. Your room's damp, your clothes are damp, your bed's damp, everything's damp. So if you want to stay there long term, you need a really big and several dehumidifiers. So Antigua, like I said, it was built by the Spanish, and when Central America got its independence from Spain, that Antigua was the capital of Central America. The country of Central America. Well, the country of Central America didn't last very long because all these little Central American countries we have today, they kind of looked at each other and said, hey, we don't like you. We don't like you. We don't like you. So they all split up. The country of Central America that split from Spain then split up into many small countries. Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica, Panama. So it's a very historical city. Yeah, they were all saying how safe of a city it was, and it was pretty safe, but there was lots of police around and lots of shotgun boys, lots of private security who are escorting valuable cargoes and trucks. My last day I saw a truck of army soldiers, probably about 20, 30 soldiers, standing up and holding their automatic weapons. They're ready to go. Why they were coming into town, I don't know, but so they were definitely coming into town and coming into town heavily armed. But we were leaving at the time, so it didn't matter. So we were staying at Hotel Antigua. So our first day was a tour of the orphanage. They took us by van. Drove up a mountain. The orphanage is on top of a mountain, a 7,000-foot mountain at the very top. So we drove up the mountain, and there was shops and houses on either side of the road, which is pretty normal for that part of the world. Have all these shops and houses all along a road, but not behind it. So we drive, and then we see a walled place. We turn left, and there's a really big metal door. Trucks and cars have to drive through. So they open that up, and then boom, we see the whole orphanage inside this walled compound, and there's children playing and all along the road and playground, and it was a wonderful scene. We went from a kind of deserted road of poverty and came in, and there's all these children playing and playground, and it was quite a scene actually. So that's Casa Angelina. The place was named after the founder's friend whose daughter was Angelina, who died about the same time he was founding the place. So he named it after the daughter, Angela. So the founder told us that he, back in 2006, God told him to open an orphanage in Guatemala. So he went to Guatemala, searching the whole countryside for this orphanage that God wanted him to build. So somebody told him about this piece of land on top of the mountain, and so he went up there, and the whole mountainside was deserted back then. Wasn't anybody there. So he drove up there, walked around, and he heard children singing. That's right. He heard children singing, and there was no children around. So he says, okay, Lord, this is the place. So he bought the land. I think he bought, I don't know what he bought at first. Now they have around 30 acres, about 30 acres. But he bought some land, and he started to build an orphanage there. And it's turned out to be quite an orphanage, and he's still there. I met the founders, the husband and wife. So very nice people, very much in charge. Very much in charge. Whenever they're around, everybody knows that they're in charge. So, but that's good. Every place needs a leader. So the first day was just a tour of the facility to see what's there. And it's quite a tour. They have 175 children there, all orphans, given to them by the Guatemala court system. All heavily abused children. So when I got out of the van on that first day, right away there's two little boys who grabbed each of my hands and led me. I don't know where they were leading me. They were leading me toward the building on the other side of the van, and apparently they knew where I needed to go. So that's where I needed to go. So these two little boys led me to this building, and then they got distracted and took off to the playground. So that was kind of cute. And so we got our tour the first day. Second day we came back, and the next 4 days it's time to work, which is why we were there. We were there to work. We weren't there just to go on tour. So we were building, most of the time we were building a fence. They have commercial sized fencing, electrified fencing, it's all electric, all around the orphanage. And outside of the electric fence, there's a wall of plants or hedges held up by wires. And that's all to keep robbers out. Because when they first built the orphanage, the locals were robbing them blind, taking everything of value. Because the people around there are poor. Now, that's no excuse. Jesus was poor, but he didn't steal anything. Apostles were poor, they didn't steal anything. But they kept getting robbed, so they had to build a fence. Then they were digging under that fence, or they're climbing over it first, climbing over the fence. So they had to put up an electrified fence that will zap them. So that worked, but then they started digging under the fence to steal. So that's why they've got concrete about 2 feet under the fence that supports the fence. Then they put those hedges, another row of hedges outside the fence that goes real deep. The roots go real deep. And so that's just too much for them to dig under. So that stopped the stealing. Praise the Lord. So we were building a continuation of one of those fences because the Guatemalan government said no kids, no adults 18 or over can be inside the orphanage. So for years, many orphanages around there, they would educate the children, take care of them, but educate them. And when they graduated from high school, then if they wanted to help out around the orphanage to work, they would pay for their education at the University of Guatemala and give them a good college education or a trade, education and trade. They did that for years, but then the Guatemalan government says no, they can't stay inside the orphanage, so they were building a new house for them to live in, and then building a fence to separate the orphanage from that house where the 18-year-olds will stay. So we were building that fence to separate them. So, but this fence wasn't going to be electrified. So it's technically on the property, but it's fenced off. Whether that passes the Guatemalan government's muster, we don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it does. So it's all shovel work. We were basically shoveling dirt, moving dirt around and putting it in between where the fence is going to go. And also we were building a building, and there was 5 or 6 really large metal trusses. They weighed 800 pounds each. And so about 15 of us grabbed each truss. We had to carry it first up a hill, a very steep hill, about 30 degrees, and to get to the building. So we had this carry this 800-pound truss, and there was 5 or 6 of them. We had to carry all of them up this steep hill to the house. That was the hardest thing I did, because this orphanage is on top of a 7,000-foot mountain. Well, the air is mighty thin at 7,000 feet. The view is great, but the air is thin. So I would help carry it to the top, but I would be breathing so hard because I was breathing, but I wasn't getting any oxygen in my lungs. So breathing heavy, but not getting satisfied with air. So that was a little tough. But you take a 30-minute break, you're fine after that. And then we, after we got those trusses on, the other crews, they had some welders. We had 3 welders. They were welding them up. And there was another large crew building another building, lifting up cinder blocks and bricks, building another building. And then we sanded some tables down. So the last afternoon we sanded some tables down. That's because it kept raining off and on. Usually it was nice in the mornings, but afternoons it would rain, and rain heavy. So we did a lot of work there. We had one day off. First day was a tour. Second day was a day off. A lot of team members stayed in town and ate at restaurants, walked around the parks, things like that. Gretchen and I, we knew we were going there, so we made an appointment and made a plan, well, mostly Gretchen, to put on a pizza party and ice cream party at her old orphanage, which is Casa Aleluya. It's in the same area, same general area, but it's in the mountainous area, so it takes a while to get there. But they came, picked us up at our hotel. We went to San Lucas. Casa Angelina is in Zaragoza. This Casa Aleluya is in San Lucas, Guatemala. So we went to a Domino's Pizza. Yes, Domino's Pizza. actually a big Domino's, and we ordered 70 medium Domino pizzas. 70, 7-0. So we paid for that. Thank you to our sponsors who paid for it. We had wonderful sponsors who paid for everything. Our trip, pizzas, ice cream, everything. So we ordered 70 pizzas, and while we were ordering them, just before we left, the armed guards came in, because 70 pizzas is a very big black market item that could be easily sold, and so Domino's needed an armed guard to guard the pizzas and the drivers. The drivers were on motorcycles. So these armed guards came in. The driver had a pistol, 45 caliber pistol at his belt. He walked to the left to the counter. His partner had a pump action shotgun. He went to the right. He cleared out the back rooms, make sure there wasn't any thieves or robbers in the back rooms and the bathrooms. Very professional. I was going to take a picture of him, but a still small voice in my head says, might be a bad idea. So I didn't do that. These guys were at the ready with their shotguns, so I didn't want to give them an excuse, if you know what I mean. So, after we did that, we went to an ice cream place in the same shopping area and bought 4 big tubs of ice cream. And we bought 4 big tubs of ice cream, put it in the trunk, and headed to Casa Aleluya and met the founders there, Mike and Dottie, and visited with them a while. Put the ice cream in the freezer, of course, of the kitchen. Now, Casa Aleluya has 150 kids. When my wife was there for 3 years, living there for 3 years. She had 450 kids back then. They've had as much as 550 kids. But currently, because of COVID and judges sending them back home, they only have 150 kids. But you deal with what you got. So we got the ice cream in the freezer. The pizzas were on their way. We visited with the founders, Mike and Dottie. And by the time we finished visiting with them, the pizzas had arrived. So they arrived with their armed guards, and we stacked up the pizzas in the kitchen. And Gretchen and the kitchen staff, as the children came in, dished out the pizza. Youngest kids first, got theirs first. And then the medium-sized kids, and then the high school and college kids got theirs. Each child got 3 pieces of pizza, which is half a pizza, I guess. But 3 pieces, maybe not half, but 3 pieces. And then after they had that, then we gave out ice cream. So they got pizza and ice cream, and they were very happy. Very, very, very happy, very grateful. These kids were heavily abused, sexually abused. But they're great kids. Kids heal so fast. Kids want to heal. And they're great kids, very grateful. They're happy we did that for them. And it was a blessing for us to do that for them. I stayed in the background because I didn't want to gain credit. I don't like that. So I don't like getting credit for anything. So we had a great time with our pizza and ice cream party at Casa Aleluya. And then we went back to our hotel. Well, we took the social worker at Casa Aleluya that helped us, Lily. We took her and her American husband out for supper after that was done, because she was so helpful to us to help us arrange all that with the orphanage, so that Gretchen can go back and visit her old orphanage and have a good time. And so because she was so helpful, we took her and her husband, her two kids out St. Lucas for a nice meal. A restaurant called San Martin, which is kind of a chain restaurant in Guatemala. And so I think we had burgers. I had a hamburger. Lily's husband had a hamburger. So we're having a hamburger there in Guatemala. So hamburgers are there very popular, actually. They've got Burger King, McDonald's, all that. So we took them for a meal. Had a great visit with them. Lily's husband is one of the adopted children of the founders of Casa Aleluya, Mike and Dottie. So he's one of the adopted children. They had 5 adopted children, and so he was one of them. So after that was our day off. And we went on the work projects at Casa Angelina, just like I told you a few minutes ago. Building the fence, carrying the trusses up the hill. And Casa Angelina also builds widows' houses. They built so far 175 widows' houses. And we went to visit one with a couple of widows in there. And very basic structure. Cement floor, cinder block walls, and a metal roof. Very basic structure. Nothing luxurious. But they built 175 of them, and they were on a mountaintop, a different mountain, but mountaintop. As I told the pastor there, says, you built a $10,000 house that's got $1 million view. He agreed. I don't know the elevation of that mountain, but it's about 7,000 feet too. And a great view of the valley. But they built 175 widows' houses. And what he says is that alcoholism is so bad in Guatemala that the men die off pretty young, and they leave all these widows. And so when one widow dies, normally what happens is the daughter or son-in-law or daughter-in-law is widowed and living there. So the widows' houses kind of just change hands from one widow to another widow. So kind of sad, being that alcoholism is so bad in Guatemala. That's the drug of choice there, as it was here until meth started taking over. So yeah, great ministry they have there. At the end of the week at Casa Angelina, we bought ice cream for those kids. So we didn't go out and buy the ice cream like we did at Casa Aleluya. We just paid the lady in charge of the orphanage, and she went out and got it, or her people went and got it. Ice cream, waffle cones, chocolate syrup, and she gave 2 scoops to everyone. Not only to all the kids, they had 175 kids, But all the staff and all the missionaries that were there, including me. so there's about 35 missionaries there. And so I guess we bought ice cream for about 250 people there. And that was a blessing. For some of the small kids there, that's probably the only time they ever had ice cream. So they were very happy and grateful, and it was quite a blessing. So that was our trip to Guatemala, and thank you very much. And next episode, we will get back to Acts chapter 12. Thank you, and God bless you.